is the runtime. Yeah, so the Node.js is the runtime that allows you to run JavaScript code as the browser there, because there's a lot of things that needs to be done before the React will send the results to the browser, and it uses the node to perform all these actions. So, and before you start dealing with nodes, I mentioned that you need to know how to work with terminal. So we talk about some of the basic command that you can use, which is to move around, create folder, delete folder, and so forth like that. So we talk about them, which is what I have there. Apart from that, there was a class that talked about basic stuff about JavaScript. We are not done with it, but we just talked about the one we need at the moment, which is what we call JavaScript modules. So a modules is a way of you splitting your JavaScript code into different files so that you can manage different features in its own file, not that you jam pack everything together inside one file, because that's how things work these days. You work with a lot of JavaScript files, but each file is going to be like a feature on its own that deal with a lot of things that you want to do. And anywhere that you need those functionality, you can now import the functionality there like that. So we talk about this before we now move into how to install React. So if you look at this side here now, I have this functionality where we have this. You can see at the top, I'm having the imports, and at the same time, we're having the export stuff. So this index.html is what we have on the page, and the page, look at it, the script that we're having now, it's having this extra type of module, because without this one, the browser will not know that you have a separate file somewhere that you are taking something from it. So once you specify module, then the browser will enter the module functionality there. So whatever you're importing from this file, it will go there and take everything. So, and if you look at the index of JS, here I have something that I want to do, but that thing that I want to do is coming from another file. So we are importing the username, which is coming from this app.js. So this index doesn't need to know about this one. Whatever you want to do, it will be happening here. So this one will go there, take whatever it needs to take from this file, and you'll be able to use it inside this file. But before you can take anything from a file, that file must be willing to give you that information, because you can't just go to any file that you want to take something from there. They don't really send anything by default. You have to be the one that specified, okay, this one I want it to give anybody that is requesting for this particular functionality. And when you want to give any file outside, you need to do it. We can do it in two ways. We have the default export, and we have the named export that I mentioned. So we have this default export. Default export is just a way of telling anybody that needs something from this file that, okay, when you don't specify what you are looking for, this is what you are going to send to that particular person on the file that is requiring a feature from this file. So if they don't specify what they are looking for, this is what we are sending to them by default. But if you actually know what you are looking for, then you specify the name of that functionality, and that's where the named export comes in. So whatever you're exporting out as named, they must call it that same name to have access to that functionality. So if I'm exporting it as this display name, this is the way you have to import it when you need it. Even though you can rename it, but this is the way you must specify the name. But if it is the default one, you don't need to specify the same name that I'm using to export it. You can call it any name, because that's what it's going to give you by default. If it doesn't find anything that related to what you are looking for there, it will give you this default one. And anytime you're exporting anything, you can only export default once, but you can export name multiple times. You can't have two default export, because you'll be confusing. The system will confuse like that. You say you are giving me something as default, and now having like two or three. Which one am I going to pick? No, it won't work. So, but when it is name, each one of them you are calling them through the name. So once you call A, he knows that this is what is inside A. When you say B, this is what is inside B, and so forth like that. That's why we have this one. So to export name, you don't need to put default, you just export, and in front of it, you export whatever you want to output that. So here we're exporting a variable, here we're exporting a function. Here I'm not exporting this one at all. So you can't use this age outside of this file. You can only use inside this file. You can't just go to another file and say you now want to import that age. It will not give you, because everything is always hidden inside the file where you define them. So in order for you to make it available to the outside file, then you have to export it by either using this default one or the named one. So when it is default one, when you want to import, as you can see for the default, just mention any name. Then from which file, where are you importing this thing from? You mention the file here. For example, here I'm calling it this default. You can call it anything, you can call it YX. And as you can see, there is no curly brace around it. So this one will give you whatever this file is exporting out as default. But not every time, default is just once. You can only do it once in a file. So which means most of the export you'll be doing is named export, because you can export anything as name, not one, two, three. It all depends on whatever you want to export out there, like that. So you can export out anything, but how do you import the named one? So whatever name you want to do, it have to be inside Colibri. For you to export them as objects. No objects, before you can have access to them, you mention the key and it will give you the value. But anytime you're exporting anything out here as default, it will send all of them in a form of object. The key is the name, and the same name of whatever you're exporting out, and it's going to give you whatever that thing is represented there when you import. But when you want to import anything that is named the curly brace, then inside the curly brace you mention the name, just like the way that thing is being exported out from that file. So you can't just come here and say you are looking for like this, nothing like come from that place. So if I save it and try to access this thing, it will give me nothing, because we don't have anything like that. You can see VS Code is not even giving you suggestions like that. But if I put something that is there, maybe display name, as you can see that it's giving me, because it knows that this thing has been exported out from that file. But if I type something that is not there, like this, even the age is there, but since this thing is not giving us, you can take it. So the file, all the file, whatever you are doing inside them, they are always hidden to the outside world. In order for you to use anything there, you must export them out by either using the default or the named. Yes, yes, yes. You can't just use, yeah, this file now is not visible to this one. Like everything inside this file is not visible to this one. So the Node.js is hiding everything. You can't just bring it. As when you're not doing module, yeah, what you can just do is to include this index here and include the app inside it. So if you include the app last, app can see what is inside this one, because the browser will have already loaded the index. Then next line, now that one will now be seeing everything that is inside. It will have access to what is there. But if it is module, doesn't work like that. Each one of them will hide their property or whatever that is inside them. So in order for you to have access to them, that file must export out that functionality. If it's not exporting it out, you can't have access to it. Like this age now, you can't use it outside of this file. If you try to import it, it will not give you anything, because you did not mention it here that you are exporting this thing out. And this thing will really solve a lot of problems, because it's not every time that you want to make something to go outside. For example, now, if I declare age here, and I declare the same way it's there, this age now, and I declare another one here, based on this functionality now, there's no way the age of this one will be clashing with that age of that one. But assuming you do it the normal way, they will clash, because he's seeing everything. The browser is seeing everything. But here now, since everything is hidden and the file is not sending it out, and you're not, even if the file is sending it out and you're not importing it, it will still not give you. It's only what to import from that particular file that is going to give out like that. So, and that's how it works. And that's what we'll be using in this React, because React follow this thing to work with a lot of files that you are going to be working with in React. And before we get to React, I mentioned some stuff too. I think all this thing has disappeared. I don't know why. So there's some stuff too that was added here last time, but maybe during the time I was saving the stuff, the thing just because I mentioned how you can create a node project. So when you want to work with Node, you need to create a Node project. And when you want to create a Node project, what you can do here is to type this command to generate the manifest of the project. And manifest is just this package.json. And this package.json, we generated this in last time. You can see here. So what is it going to do? This is where the node is going to record all the information about your project. So whether you're installing external library later on, it will have the record of all those libraries. So this project now, you can transfer it to another system and you still have the same thing on that particular system without you starting from scratch, like start doing everything that you did when you are starting the project. So this one will have the record of everything. And once you transfer the project to another system, or you are working with somebody else somewhere, because you guys won't be using the same system, but you'll be working on the same project. So whatever that is happening there, the record will always be saved inside this manifest file. And one of the stuff there is this, like the name of the project, the current version, the description. The main here is when you want to run your application, which file do you want this thing to run for you? So I'm saying app.js, even though there's something like it there, because if I try to run anything, if I just call this package, maybe I'm using it in another project. If I call it, this is the stuff it's going to run first. But nothing like that here. So that means that file must be available here. Other thing that I mentioned here is script. So this script here is a way of you creating a shortcut to some of the commands that you want to type in your command line. There's some command that they are really, really, really long. So instead of you typing all those long commands every time, you can create like a shortcut to them for them here. So where you are going to give it the name and whatever you want that thing to do. So this is the name of the script, and anytime I call this one, this is what it's going to do here. This is command though. Everything here is command. But instead of me typing this in from the command line every time like that, what I can just do here is to talk to the node based on this package of JSON and call the scripts that I want to run, because you give each one of them name, which is like the key. So once you call the text, this is what is going to run for you. And every time you need to run this thing, you don't need to be typing everything like this. You only call the key and it will come here and pick whatever command that is in front of the stuff there like that. The other one is auto license, but all these things, they are like this in here. We use the command to generate all the things for us. Not that we're the one that type all everything. The only thing we just do is to ask all the question, and we are going to supply, to ask the name, we supply the name, version, it will to generate it if you want, and if you don't want it, you type the version yourself like that. And that's what we did last time when you want to create a React project. But instead of you doing all this thing from scratch yourself, like setting up, create, initialize the node project, install React, connect all the necessary things you need to connect, we now use a tools to do all this magic for us behind the scene. Our own is just to give it the name of the package, and it's going to do other magic behind the scene there. And what tools do we use that time? We check the video. We use this Vitejs, which is a tooling. It's a tools, because it's not like a language on its own. It's not a language. It's just a tools that is developed on Node too, because all of them depend on Node. Because we are running some JavaScript code outside of the browser, and we need something that will allow us to do that. So all of them are using Node. So which means before you can work with Vite, you must know about Node. You must have it on your system, and again, you have basic knowledge about the terminal that we've talked about there, like that. And this thing can be used to create different types of application by using it to create. This is one framework. This is React that we're going to be using, but we still have some other frameworks too. And you can use this feed, the Vite, to set them up. Not that you be the one that will start doing all the work yourself. And how do you set it up? As you can see, this is the command that we use. And this npm here, I mentioned it to the last class here, which is the Node Package Manager. So this npm is what we use to manage all the packages that are Node package. I mean, any package that is developed using Node, we use npm to manage them, because this is the one that will install all the necessary packages that you need for a particular project. Because in Node world, we have something about don't reinvent the wheel, which means if you have somebody that already worked on something and they make it available for you to use in your project, why do you need to do it again? Why not just install it into your, so this npm now is what you can now use to install different node package. It knows how to create the necessary file. It knows where to download them. Once you just mention the package or whatever library you want to use, it knows where to get them. So where is it going to get it from? We have this npm js, which is like a repository for all the packages that are developed for Node. Any packages you are looking for, just come here. You are going to see all of them there. Like that. For example, now we are reading our application, and we need a library that manages calendar for us, which is using React. So here now I can just come here and just type React calendar like that. And if I type it, if there's anything like that, you can see there's a lot of packages that's meant for that handle that functionality. So instead of you working on this thing from scratch, look at different packages that you can use to do that functionality. Not that they will give you everything, but they will abstract a lot of functionality out for you. You only just include it in your project, and from there you start using the stuff. And again, as you can see, it will give you the demo, how the thing is going to look like, and the documentation too is there, how to use it, how to include. Can you see now? So this is it. So when you want to include this in your project now, you don't need to start doing it from scratch. Just include this library, and once you include this library, you have all this functionality out of the box. Your own is just to customize the UI there like that. And they have this kind of, this person actually have more than this. They have a lot of this in that you can use like that. And if you go to his main site, you're going to see here, yeah, this is it here. As you can see, tap the clock, tap the date speaker like that. So instead of you doing all this, because the normal date picker doesn't work on all the browsers. Like the way you have it, the look on this browser is not the same thing you're going to see on Firefox. It's not the same thing you're going to see on other operating systems. So they used to be different. So since each one of them implement it differently, but you know your design, you want it to be the same no matter the system or the browser the user is using. So and if you want to do it, it means you have to create your own from scratch. Why doing that when someone has already built something like that for you? So what do? You incorporate the library into your project. And how do you install it? To install anything, you need, as you can see, you need npm. And we talk about different command that you can use with this npm last time there. So this yarn is another package manager, but this one is not the standard one or the default one. The npm, you don't need to do anything with it. Once you install Node, you already have npm, but this one you have to install it if you want to use it. But we always use this one because it's always available when you install the Node. And in front of it we have this install or I, which is something I've explained. That's the one I said is wipe off. But if you check the video, you see all the necessary command that you can use with this npm like that. And this npm now, once you install any package, it will have the record inside this your package or JSON. It will have the record here. And if I go to the project that we set up, you see that this one have more than what we have with other, because the tooling has already set up a lot of things for us. You see that under the script, we have the def, we have build, we have lint. So anytime I call lint, this is the command it's going to call. Instead of you calling this long stuff every time, typing it, the only thing you just do is call lint. It will now perform this action there like that. But if you look at it, we have this dependency and we have this def dependency. So dependencies, these are now the library that we are using. And what is the library? React and we are done. Again too, these are some other libraries to do some magic for us. Like all this thing now, they are doing some magic behind the scene that you don't need to worry yourself like that. Like the engine that is connecting everything together is this bit here. And again, we have the types, the plugin, and a lot of other things that the Vit is using. But what is dev dependency and what is dependency? Dependency is the major one, the dependency that you need in order for your application to run in production. But when you are developing your application, there are some other dependencies that you need, but they are only useful when you are developing application, not when you are running the application in production. And that's where the dev dependency comes in. So the dev dependency means it's only when you are developing that you want all this one to be installed. But when the thing is built for production, the only thing that is under the dependency is what you need. Because all this thing that you are seeing here, this is what we have here. But this is not all the library that is going to be installed. It will be more than this. And if you check the video, it was around that 120 something stuff that it installed for us. Well, where did he install all these things too? That's where we have this. Where is it? Okay, I've already deleted it. So I will install it again. I think I've removed it. So yeah, there is a folder that used to be node modules. So that node modules is where the node, whatever library that you download, is going to be inside. Because you need to have access to all the code. So it will download. To go to that npm.js, look for the library, it find it, it will download it for you. If that library is dependent on another library, it will download that one first before downloading the one that you mentioned. And that's the reason why that this thing, not everything that you mentioned here, library, everything that you have here, that's not what you are going to be using. There's a lot of other libraries that all this one and two are depending on, because that's how it works in the node ecosystem. You don't reinvent the wheel like that. Once you see that somebody have this thing, you just use it in your own project, but you use it to do your own application and so forth like that. So the same thing, all this React, ESLint, whatever stuff, they are using other library to do some magic behind the scene. So how do we install? And that is the advantage of npm here. And this is your package JSON here. See now, before I've already installed the packages, but I've deleted the stuff because of space. Now I want to bring it back. I don't need to start typing all this library one by one. This package or JSON already have the record of all the library and the version that you want to use. So this one is telling that when you want to install this, it must not install anything greater than this 18 here. But the two can increase and this 02 can increase. That's why this current is here, but the symbol, I'll be explaining all this one later, but now you don't need, it can be this equal to meaning this is exact. It must only install 18.2.0. So if I put greater than like this, it means it needs to install the version that is greater than this particular one, or this one, or less than equals to. But all this one you don't need. Most of the time what you only see is this direct here, which is a way of talking to this now. This last number here must not change, but any of this second one or the third one can change. So it can bump, because if there is a new version, but the second and the last number are the only one that is changing, then update. But if this first one change, don't change that one. Only install the last one that have this starting point here. Because I mentioned it last week too. Maybe it should be in the video too. So this version, it have what they are doing there. So this is what we call major. We have this minor and we have this patch. That's the stuff there. So the minor here is what we use to kind of like, maybe you release a program or release a library. The library now have like maybe it have maybe a bug. That means the thing is not working the way it's supposed to work. So you report it and the thing is being fixed there. So this number will be increased to make, okay, the previous one that we have, anybody that want to install now, you need to bump your, because the way this thing will know this is a new one from the previous one is by changing the number. Because through that, okay, you actually have a new version. So let me install it. But we used to increase this number when you fix a bug in the previous library, in the previous version. So maybe 18.2.1 is what you have. But now you now fix something there. So you just increase that one to 2. It will now be 18.2.2. So this second one, this second number used to be increased when you add new things, but that doesn't mean it's kind of like fixing what you have there. It's just a new thing and it doesn't disturb whatever the user, maybe you have 18.2.0 like this. So whatever you have here, everything is working, but you now need to add some new thing into it. So this one I can now be 18.3.0. So that 3 there is telling, okay, whatever you are doing before, everything will still work, just that we are adding a new stuff that you can try out. But once this 18 change, it means the way you used to do thing before, maybe the thing like this is 18.2.0, it now change to 19.00. It means there is some stuff you used to do in this your 18, that is now different. We are doing it in a different way in 19 now. So maybe before you need to pass two things into it, but now you pass one stuff into it. So that's what we call break change. And that's the reason why that last one don't change anyhow, because it's very important. Because if you go and change it anyhow, there's some stuff you might be doing in the old one that will not work in the new one, or there is new thing you are doing in the new one that is not in the old, like the way it is in the old version is not going to work at all if you try to use it. And each project you are working on, the way you are going to be dealing with project is depending on the library you are using. Because there's some library they will tell you you have to install this particular version of this library before you can work with our own library. Because when we are developing our own library, this is the version of this library that we use. And if we try to change it, it will not work because we are focusing on the old one, not the new one. Or sometimes we are focusing on the new one, not the old one. And we have the way of talking to npm to install a particular version or to install the library or to do anything there. If you check the video, you are going to see all of them there. So I mentioned it very well there, but I don't know why this thing wipe off, because here we can use npm I, so the package. So this is how you can install any package that you want. Just mention the name of the package and it's going to install there for you like that. So I is just a short form for this install. So this is the major, this is the full stop. So npm install package name. But instead of you typing in install, just put IF. But anytime you are using this thing, it's going to install the package for the particular project you are working on. Because the way Node handle some of this thing here, because no talk the this thing that I talk about now, the version. If this thing is installing everything directly to your system, it will cause a lot of problem with different projects you want to work with. Because one project might be looking for version 19.0.2, while another one will be looking for 18. So if the thing is installing everything directly to your system, it means anytime you want to work with any project, you have to downgrade or upgrade every time when you want. But it doesn't do it like that. It install all this library into that particular project you are working on. So which means that project now, it won't affect any other project if they are using different version. And that's where that node this thing comes in, which is the node modules. It's a folder that will be generated for you under the project you are working on, and inside that folder, that's what is going to install all the library for that particular project that you are working on. So when you create another project, even if it's the same React project, it will create its own separate node module. So each project will have their own node module, so that when you're doing anything with this project it won't affect any other project. Maybe you worked on like a project you work in 2021, and some of them will not work now. Some of the library you're using at that time will not work again now because the version has been changed. So, and since this thing has changed and the new project you want to work with needs to use the updated version there, so you just install the stuff and it won't be affecting what you worked on there like that. So, and this is how this thing work like that. So how do we install this thing back? So when you just use npm I or npm install without mentioning any package that you want to install, what it will do is that it will look for the manifest in your folder, because wherever you are typing the command from, that's what it's going to treat as a project folder. So it will look at it, and from there it will let me close this one. Don't want it to, don't save. So it will go there and check for this your package of this thing. And by default, anything that is in that dependency and that dependency, it will install all of them. So if I want to install this library back now, what I just need to do is to go into our project folder. Where's our project folder? It is this React there. So I can quickly open it inside my terminal, because it must be inside the correct folder. If you type it from the wrong folder, no, it will be looking for this package or just in there, and it's going to do something else in another folder. So it must be inside the correct folder, which I'm going to click on it like this. VS Code, once you just refill the terminal, it will open that folder for you directly. Not that you'll be the one that will type, but you know what to type to change. I don't want to be wasting time. So here now, I can just use npm I or npm install. If you don't mention any package, it will come here, look for this dependency and dev dependency. If you can find them, it will install any library that is there. But that doesn't mean that here, how many library do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But you see that what is going to tell you that it will be more than 10. Because some of this library too, they are depending on another library. So you don't need to worry about it. Just type it and keep watching it until it's done with its magic. And it's going to install all of them at once. And look at it now, the folder is back. Because this is where it's going to save. Can you see what it's saying there? One what? 103. No, it's not this is 278 packages added. What we have is 10. But by the time it's done with the stuff, it added 200. Now imagine that you are the one doing it yourself. Like Because when you want to install this one now, it might be asking that you need to install one library first. But this one will do the magic behind the scenes. So when you're installing any library and that library requires another library, it will download that one first before downloading the one you have. If that one to have its own, it will keep downloading the library that all those ones depend on first before it will now download. And look at the time, it's just like it's not even up to 5 seconds to it all depends on network. So if the network is okay, it will work on time, but if the network is not okay, it can take time. I like that because it's communicating with that npm.js to look for all the library. And as you can see now, it said added 278 and audited 279 packages in 23 seconds. And this one we have these 103 packages are looking for. Forget about that one because some of these packages they will be wanting you to sponsor them. Like okay, now I've been working on this project. I've dedicated my time on it, so we need you to fund us. And so, but not to concern about that one. If you are a businessman, and you know that the library you're using is giving you can do that. But there's a lot of people that are sponsoring some library that you are using for free. It's because some people are kind of exploring the project like that. So, and where is it? So this project now, as we want to use it, we just need to get out to install it. As you can see, copy the command to install, and you type it, and it's going to install the package. So if I want to install it now, just by me pasting the command, then press enter. The only one thing we type, but you see that this one too is depending on some other library. So let's say, like, let's just say 90% of them always depend on another library. It's only few that you're going to see that they work on everything from scratch. Other one, they are going to depend on something too. And again, now look at it, something has changed here. Can you see what you say now? I think added what 14. We only specify one, but that one too is depending on other packages too. So and it will not add all those things that it is depending on because your own is just to have the this one your own manifest because anytime you call this one it will always know whatever that is depending on. So it doesn't need to record all those one, but it's installing all of them, but it doesn't need to put the record of all these 14 packages in your manifest. The only thing you just need is the one you are installing, and that's what it's putting here. So if you look at it now, as you can see, it's now added this React date picker, and the version that I installed is this 11.0.0 like that. So now, how do I use this thing? It all depends on whatever library you want to use. You go to their doc and you see how you can use it there. So where is it? So see GitHub, and if I go to the GitHub, because that's where the stuff is saved, you are going to see how to use the stuff in your code. As you can see, you have this, you this is it here now. So date picker, this is the stuff that you need to call, and from there you'll be able to have access to what is going on. But what are they doing here? What is going on here? What is this one? What is this function might have? What is cons? What is use state? Forget about all this one. What is going on here? Look at the way things are being represented here. Like they are mixing JavaScript and HTML together. This is what we call React. So you need to understand React first before you start connecting to any library like that, because you need to understand what is React. And what is React? React is just a library that deal with the UI. It helps you to build UI. And how do you build the UI? We use the concept of a component. Because everything on a page, they are like a component. For example, here, look at this site. Assuming we are the one building this particular site. If you are looking at it, this thing here, if I have to look at it, I can see them as a bunch of components comes together to form this entire UI like that. For example, here now, if I want to do this thing using React, what I will have is I will have the components for everything at the top here. It's the one to really focus on what you have at the top. Doesn't do any other thing again. Again, I'm going to have a component that always focus on this part alone. Again, here I will have a component that do this one. And all these things too, they are component on their own too, but it will be included inside the component. UI that I have seen on the page is just components coming together to form the entire UI. So if I see that I can use this thing now, instead of me duplicating it, what I can do is just to create a UI for it or create a component. And anytime I need it, I will always just call that component and it will render whatever I want it to display on the screen. But if you look at it here, the same thing you have here is what you have here. The difference between them is the content. So instead of me now doing copy and paste HTML that we used to do, we only do it once. Is that the component that we are going to be doing copy and paste for? So which means anytime the design change, it's only the source component that will change. And whenever I'm using it, all of them will change at once. And again, if you look at it, the three of them are the same thing. So here now I can treat it as a component. By creating one, the only thing I will just be sending is the content that I want to show there like that. But if you look at this, a button. But this button is the same thing here, is the same thing here, and it's the same thing. Like the UI is the same. But if you look at it, these two they are linked, while this one is button. You are going to see how to do all these things there. And how do you create a component? We're going to talk about each one of them. How do you couple everything together? We're going to talk about them. But in React, you use it to build the user interface by using component. And what is component? There are different ways of creating component in React, but we're only going to focus on the modern one because we have different ways of creating component. We'll only focus on the modern way of creating. So here now you can think of this thing as a component. Entire stuff here is a component, but it's using all these other components too inside it, because that's the goal here. You create component and you can reuse it anywhere that you need that same functionality. And if you look at this one, look at this thing. This one here is the same thing here, is the same thing here, and the same thing here. The difference is the content and the arrangement. So I can create a single component that will be expecting my text, the title, the description, and the image. And again, too, you need to tell it that do you want the image to be on the left or you want the image to be on the right. This one I don't need to be doing copy and paste. What I just need to do is create a single component. For that single component, based on what you are sending into it, which is what we call props. We know about all these concepts. I will explain each one of them, what we call each one of them in React. So props is just like you are sending attributes. No, on the HTML, when you want your HTML to behave in different way, what do you send? You send attribute, like your input. No, we have input of password, the text, the email. What do you use? Attribute. The same thing too. How do you control the way your component is going to behave in different way? We use props. So here now, this is component. If you look at it, this one have background, this one did not. This one have, this one did not. But if you look at all of them here, they are like this thing is the same. The difference between them is just the content and the position of the image. So now, since I know that all these things are the same, the difference is just the styling that is here. Why can't I just create a single component and just reuse it? So here now, we just send the content that I need into it, and it will display it for me automatically like that. But how do you do all this thing? You are going to see everything inside the code, but you need to understand what the React is trying to do there. So with React, you create component, and through the components, you use it to build your user interface. An advantage of component is that it is reusable, which means you can reuse it in different places that you have that same functionality. Even if the stuff is having some change, like a little change, you don't need to start creating another component. What you just do is to send attribute down, which is what we call props here. So and those are the concepts that we'll be explaining there. And later on, we now combine it together to build proper stuff that we need like that. So, and where is it? So if I go back now, you see the structure of the project there. So if you come here, you see we have the project folder, which is what I call React. And what I call React, you can call it anything you want. But inside it, you see there is node modules. These node modules here, this is where the node is keeping all the packages that you're using for this particular project. But you can't just do anything without the package, like the React that you want to use. It has already installed it. So where is the React located? It is inside this node modules. Yeah, and if you look at it, there's a lot of packages that have been installed for us. But if you go under the R, you're going to see the React there. But you don't work with this node module, so you won't be coming here because it's this thing that will be managing it for you, which is the npm. So you don't open this folder, you don't even, because the thing used to be long, and besides sometimes it used to be really big depending on the project you are working with like that. So you always close this folder, you don't open it, because if you open it, you just be seeing something you don't need, because it's the packages that will be using on the scene behind the scene, nothing concern you about them like that. The only package you'll be interacting with is the one you install, not the one that one is installing for you there like that. So you don't open this. The other one you have there is this public, which is a folder where you can put all the images or assets that you know you can load on the website directly. So any assets like images, video, whatever stuff that you want to load on the site directly, you put them under this public. And what is that? What it's going to do is that when you go to the URL, when you just use slash the file, it will give you the stuff directly. So if I just come here now, assuming we already created the stuff, it's going to be this localhost 3000. If I just say slash my image.png, in order for you to be able to have access to this here, you must put it inside public. So anything that is inside public, you can have access to them through the URL or in your code directly. So anything you want the user to have access to from URL here, they are going to be inside public. That's the name, public. Anybody can have access to it. Once they know the file name and whenever it is inside this public, they will have access to it. But if it's something that you don't want them to have access to it in the URL, then that one will be inside access, which is inside source. This one you want to use it into your code, but not that people will be able to have access to it from the URL. It's just you in the code that you want to use it, not in the URL. But if you want people to have access to it and you still want to use it in the code, you put it inside public. But any one of them that is inside asset, you not have access to, because the tooling knows how to convert anything the way it's supposed to be so that user cannot have access to it or in the URL. But anything you put here, the user will be able to have access to them there. And inside this source, which is this SRC, this is where you now have all your code that you want to work with there. And as you can see, inside this thing, we have this app.css, which is what you know already. CSS file is that one, but it's for this particular component like that. Now, how do you recognize a component, or how do you recognize anything related to React? Look at the extension here. The extension is JXF. So this is advanced JavaScript that combine HTML, CSS, and JavaScript together inside one file. But the way you work here, it looks like your HTML code, but it's not HTML code. It is JSS code. Whatever you are doing here is JSS code. So that JSS code is what the tooling will convert for you into a proper normal JavaScript code, because the browser doesn't understand anything like JSS. So you need to convert everything that is going on here into a proper, because the React is what you are doing here, and nothing concerning the browser about React. So React is the one coupling everything together. Then it is to now send the result to the browser. How does it do all this thing? You don't need to know about that. It is inside this main. As you can see, this is where the connection is needed. It will take your app. Then can you see all those things that we talked about? Document or get element. So it will look for this root element, which is just get element by ID. That means there's one element there that is having this particular ID, and it's going to render your code here. But how is it going to convert all this in? Doesn't concern you about that one. Your own is to give it the component what you want to display, and that's why this one here is not like the normal JavaScript that you tell it what to do and how to do it. Here, you only give React what you want. How it's going to get it to the browser doesn't concern you about that one. Just give it what you want to show. It knows how to do all the other magic behind it. The only thing you just specify to React is what to do. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. But how is it going to do it? Not to concern you about that one. React knows how to handle all those magic behind the scene. But if you are using JavaScript directly, then you must look, that one now you have to be the one that will be locating where you want to put the element on the page. Again, too, you'll be the one that will add. When you want to remove, you'll be the one that will remove it. For anything you want to remove, just give the React a condition to use. So yeah, this element I only want it to show when this thing is like this, and when it's not like this, I don't want it to show it. But you don't need to tell it that this is how to do it. Just tell it what you want to do, and it will do the magic for you behind the scene. And this is where the magic is being done, which is your index. As you can see, we have this index.html, and can you see the element, a div, which have this ID root. And this is where the React is going to put all your code. So after it's done converting everything from the React to a proper stuff that the browser can display. And as you can see, the type is what? Module. Because in your code, you are going to be doing something like import, export, and so forth like that. And since you are going to be dealing with import and export, you need module, because that's the only way the browser will know what is going on with that module. It will not even work. It will tell you to change the type to module. And as you can see down here, can you see what is going on? Inside this file is exporting this function here, and this function is what we call component, but I will talk more about this one tomorrow, like that, which is the anatomy of a React component. Because when you are creating a component, there's some stuff that goes along with it. And what is component? Component is just a block of code that you want to display on the screen. But you can now combine them together in different ways to form different UI on the screen, and you can reuse it. But in React, we have different ways of creating components. We have a class component and we have functional component. So functional component means that you are creating a component using function. And as you can see that we declare a function here, which is called app. And inside it, we are doing some stuff. What are we doing here? We are returning a JSS code. So a functional component is just a function that is returning JSS code. And what is JSS code? Nothing much. It's just your normal HTML and JavaScript code combined together. But I need to explain where these things are kind of different from your normal HTML and the JavaScript. Because the way you do things here, you can see it look like you are typing HTML code, but this one is not HTML. This is JSS code. This div you are seeing here is not normal div of HTML. This is JSS div. And that's this one you see that here. Can you see inside this image source, there's a bracket going on there, which is supplying JavaScript code inside it. So what you are seeing here is not normal JavaScript or normal HTML code. This is JSS code. So the tooling behind the scene is going to convert everything that you have here into a proper HTML JavaScript code. Because look at it here now, you see. So how do we run this project? Let me quickly run it so that you can see that there is difference between what you type here and what is showing on the browser there, like that. So how do we run it? We need a command that is going to build our application and send the results to the browser. And look at it, we already have them under the script. And the one we need right now is dev, which is to kind of work with the development environment. When you are ready to deploy, you can now build, and whatever you build there, that's where you put online that you now deploy. But we are not deploying anything right now because as we are changing our code, we want to be seeing the changes appearing on the browser. So what you do is the dev, and this one is going to spin up its own dev server like that. So how do you call it? You can't just say dev, but this doesn't know what is dev. Where is dev coming from? So you need to use npm run. Whatever that follows the run, that is the script that you want. And which script do we want here? This is the name here. The name is dev. So we want to run the dev script. So once I type this one now, it will come here. As you can see, it will run. And see now, it created the server for us. This thing is really fast. The bit is really fast. Even it's faster than this. This thing that we used to use before. What's that? The live server. So, but this one you don't use live server here because this one is not normal HTML code. No, live server is just sending the result, just sending the file to the browser. But here you can't just be sending the file to the browser because the browser doesn't do anything like all these things here, all this app.gss, all this main.jss, whatever stuff. So this thing is going to do the conversion for you, like that behind the scene. And if I go to this address here, let me click O to open this. So it's going to open the stuff. So can you see now? So these are the code. The code we are seeing here, like this. Where's the stuff? App.jss. So this same code that you are seeing here, that's what we have on the browser. But look at the way this image now. Look at the image. Look at the source. Look at what they are typing here. So if I go back there now, you see that that thing now will be replaced with the appropriate link. So if I right click on this, inspect, and go to the, can you see now? Can you see that the source is showing something else? This is not what typed. But now look at it, it has been replaced. So this is your HTML code. But what you are having here is what we call JSX code. But the VS Code come with the tooling that makes it look like you are typing normal HTML. But this is not normal HTML. The tools is going to, the VIX is going to convert it to a proper code that the browser can now understand. So as you can see that this one has been replaced. Whatever that is here will be replaced. And where is this thing coming from? As you can see, it's just importing the file. No, a file that you have here, you don't do all those, you do your, what we normally do before inside the source, you just apply slash whatever. But this one is not coming from public. Don't forget, anything that is coming from public, you can either use it in your code or use it on the browser there. For example, now look at this public. See that it's vit.svg. So I can go to the URL, that same URL. So if I want to have access to that file, I just need to go there and put slash. Don't slow down. vit.svg like this. So whatever you type like this, can you see now it's showing? Whatever that is inside public, you can have access to it like this. But any one of them that is inside assets, you can't do it like that. It will not give you access to anything that is inside the asset like that. But in your code, how do you use what is inside the public? So you can either import it like this, the way they are importing it. And as you can see, can you see that anytime they are importing anything from public, they are not specifying that for their public. But when I want to use it too in the browser, I do not specify public because public means the slash. Once you do slash, it will always have access to anything that is inside public automatically. You don't need to specify that folder. But if it is inside any other folder, you have to specify the folder. And we've talked about all these linking stuff, whether they're inside the same folder or in another folder or in a parent folder. You see that everything is what is being used here. But in the next class, which is tomorrow, I will explain these components and talk about other features of a component like the props, the states, and so forth like that. Because if you look at it now, if I go to this page, if I go back to the page, you see that I can click on the button and the thing is increasing. But what are they doing that is making this thing to work? They are not doing it in our own normal way that you are going to use query selector and from there look at what is inside it. You now increase it by 1. That's not the way it is. Everything you want to do is inside your code. But React knows how to send that result to the browser where you want to place it. Your own is just to tell you where you want to place it and what you want to happen to it, not how it's going to do it. So look at it now. If I click on this thing to keep increasing the number, how they achieve this thing? They are using what we call states here. So states is just part of the hooks that we have in React that can hold value in your component, because your component will be destroyed and it will be recreated there every time something changes inside it. But you don't want the value that you have inside it to destroy. You still want to maintain that value. That's where state comes in. Because if you declare anything here yourself, it will destroy it anytime the component is changing. Because it's a function, it will keep running there. And once you run this stuff, it will destroy it. And once it destroys, everything that you are doing inside it will go back to their normal state. So wherever you start with 0, it will go back to 0. If you start with 1, it will go back to 1. Even if you increase, you will not see that change. But how do we keep the value from one rendering to another rendering there? That's where the state comes in. So this one will always, even though this thing is, the React is destroying it and creating another one, this thing is to still maintain the value. And when you want to update the value, that's where the function, it give you the value, the variable to access the value, and it give you the function to update. But the thing is not part of your application yet. It's saved somewhere by React so that it will not destroy the stuff. So how do you have access to the stuff? You use whatever you have here, and this is what you use to update. But I will explain it more when we get to the time we need it there like that. Or more time has gone. So that was